And 3, go.
All right. So this is Rebecca, and welcome to my website. My YouTube channel is called Inner Power Training. And today I'm interviewing Adam, my good friend Adam, that I've known for a few years now. And he is going to share with us his experience of moving to Costa Rica for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know a lot of people are telling themselves, maybe I want to go live somewhere else right now. And Costa Rica is always one of those options that people think about. So I thought it would be fun and interesting for Adam to share his experience of moving to Costa Rica and some of the things that he discovered while he did that. So
yeah, so thank you, first of all, and always glad to be on your YouTube channel, and love when we get to talk, and we talk frequently. So and I know you're very familiar with my journey, so let me just kind of back up and give you where I was. Back in 2020, I was obviously the pandemic is hitting, whether you believe that or not. I mean, the reality is that things shut down, and it gave me an opportunity to really take a look at my financial situation. I had taken a course called Financial Fitness that was through the Life app, and it was absolutely eye-opening to me, and probably a little overwhelming. And what I have found that is that if you most people would, when I ask this question, because I am a life coach, what they would rather talk about, whether it's their daily sex life or their financial situation, I always get they would rather talk about their sex life than their financial situation. It's very uncomfortable. It's very difficult to look into the mirror. And I had to take that harsh reality. I was almost $500,000 in debt. I couldn't meet my monthly bills. I didn't know what I was going to do. Pandemic's hitting, things are shutting down. The amount of money that was coming in was drastically reduced, and I had to start to make decisions. And what I ended up doing and figuring out that if I sell all of my assets, at the height of, the pandemic, that it gave me an opportunity to potentially, more than pay off all of my debts and still have money in the bank left over for me to essentially move anywhere in the world that I was going to move to. And at the time I was married, and my wife and I were considering one or two countries, and Costa Rica obviously was one, and the other one was Romania. She's from Romania originally, so we had thought maybe that might be a good move for us. But after doing quite a bit of research into Costa Rica, I had determined that Costa Rica was a better move for us for several different reasons. But one of the main reasons that Costa Rica was so appealing for both of us was, one, obviously, it's tropical, it's got warm weather, it's got, oceans, it's got beaches, it's got mountains, it's got volcanoes, it's got, wildlife, it's got kind of everything. It's really, people go to vacation there. And if you have a chance to live there full time, I thought, how does it get better than that? That was obviously one of the major draws. But the other major draw was when you start to look at the tax situation that's in Costa Rica. If you are an expat, so that means you weren't born in Costa Rica and you are born somewhere outside of Costa Rica, and you move there and you can make money online, then you don't need, then you will not pay income tax. They have a tax law there that will just allow you to work there or live there tax-free if you're making your own money outside And obviously you have to invest into the country, which at the time when I was there was 150,000 minimum to meet those requirements. So essentially you're just buying a house or a condo or whatever, which I mean, I had the cash to do it. So when I had moved to Costa Rica, I bought a house and in cash, and I bought a car in cash. And problem with Costa Rica is buying cars in Costa Rica are very expensive, way, way overpriced compared to anywhere else in the world. And I still had money left over in the bank. So this was absolutely awesome and amazing. And I absolutely loved it. And it met all of my expectations or exceeded them. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you do move to Costa Rica is it is not a first world country. It was a third world country, now almost a second world country. So there is some poverty, there is some life adjustments that you do have to make. But I mean, all in all, it was it, it was a really good journey, and I really loved everything that I did with it. And if you are in that situation yourself and you wanted to kind of do those sorts of things, then that's kind of, my experience now on how to help people do that. And that's, what Global Strong, that's what our main program is all about, is, getting a hold of your financial situation, looking in the mirror, the financial mirror, and saying, this is where I'm at, and this is where I'd like to be. And, what adjustments do we have to make, and what kind of integrity and what kind of program are we going to follow in order to get to that point? So that's kind of my journey.
Interesting. Now, because we're friends and we talk a lot, I know you did have to leave Costa Rica every so many weeks or months, because you were obviously not born there. You're a Canadian citizen. So how frequently did you have to leave?
So it's every 3 months that you have to leave, or every 90 days you have to leave. And so leaving could be a couple different ways. You could take a vacation every 3 months. And how does it get better than that when you're kind of forced to take a vacation? You could do what they call border runs, which is just, you drive up to Nicaragua or Panama, you cross the border, you stay there for lunch, and then you circle back and you come back into the country. And that's quite frequent on how many people do that. And it's not a big deal to do any of those things. So, I mean, that's the one downfall. You can get around it where you can apply to be a temporary resident, which means you don't have to do the border runs anymore, and you just have to go through an application. It does take a little bit of time to do it, but I think it takes roughly about 2 years to do the application from start to finish. And there's a few forms and stuff that you need to fill out.
Now, also, how would you compare the cost of living, because you were there very recently, to say in Canada?
It's definitely cheaper, for sure. So as an example, the internet I paid 12 months for, and it was about half of what I paid in Canada. So I think it was about $40 a month after everything was all said and done. I think it was like $500 or $600 that I paid for the year on it, and they gave me 2 months for free. Electricity was roughly the same. You have to remember you're using probably a lot more electricity because you're keeping your air conditioning going, not all day long, but for some of the days that you're there, the ACs are on because it is hot. So it was about roughly $100 to $120 a month. Water was significantly cheaper, my water bill. So in Canada, my water bill was anywhere from like $100 to $200 a month. In Costa Rica, it was $4 or $6. Like, I mean, it was significantly cheaper to run water there. And
what about health insurance? Did you have to get any kind of special health insurance, or? Did
I
you?
I I didn't. I mean, I just I don't know. I because I'm Canadian, we still have our Canadian health insurance. So I didn't have to, but if I was there for a significant period of time, definitely would have to get some kind of health insurance. And from what I understand about the health insurance there, it was really, really cheap. It was like, I don't know, 20 or $30 a month. It wasn't any significant costs whatsoever.
Yeah, and some people actually go there for certain procedures that they feel are even better. Like you said you found a dentist you really liked there.
Yeah, well, I got a dentist, and while I was there, I had a crown on one of my back teeth on my left side, and the crown had fallen out about a year before that, and so I'd meant to go back to my dentist to get it fixed, and just never got around to it. While I was in Costa Rica, my tooth actually chipped even more, and I had a root canal and everything else done on it, and the tooth chipped. And so I went in to see this dentist, and he ended up pulling the whole tooth out and let it heal. And as it healed, he did another x-ray and saw that my back tooth also had a pretty major cavity in the backside of it. So he ended up pulling that teeth. And I had asked him about a procedure that I had heard about called stem cell tooth regeneration. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we're almost set up and ready to go with that. We should have that ready to go in a few weeks." And so when I went back to the dentist, he had it all ready to go, and I had two new teeth stem cell inserted into my mouth. And I do have to go back to the dentist in November to get them to finalize it and finish it all off. But it's starting to heal, and it's starting to grow new teeth.
I like that. I mean, the dentist doesn't even talk about something that amazing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You know, I think that's incredible that they're that developed, that they're working on things like that that are so progressive. Now, I know you were living on the West Coast. Did you feel safe there? When you went out and everything, is it relatively safe? Like you're not going to get robbed or whatever
Um,
like
I
we do
that
in our cities?
Yeah, I personally felt that way. Talking with some other locals there, I don't know if they were just overly paranoid or if I was just really naive and didn't think it could happen, but I never felt unsafe there for a minute. Um, some of the locals will tell you, "Oh, don't trust this person," or "Don't trust this," and "Don't trust that." And I just never had that experience. So, not to say that it's not there, but especially on the West Coast, more so than the East Coast. I didn't visit the East Coast, but from what we have a mutual friend, and what the mutual friend both told us was, a lot different than the West Coast. The West Coast is basically where most of the money is in Costa Rica, and the East Coast is where most of the locals are who don't have a lot of money. So if you're visiting, or you're an expat and you're living on that side and they think you have money, they will petty theft. They'll break in and steal your TVs, and there's not a whole lot that you can do or whatever. But on the West Coast, I didn't feel that at all. However, they do have a lot of security. They have gates on the outside that secure your entire property in. They have, cages around all your doors and windows, metal bars so that, even if someone did get by your gates. I personally, the community I was living in, I didn't feel like I needed that. However, that's just kind of their culture. And, Central America and South America, that's essentially how everyone lives. They just live in like a gate around their property, and they have barbed wire and everything else. And it's just, it's just a culture change that don't have to, but just you need to get used to it.
Oh, yeah. I used to fly into Guatemala and Costa Rica, as a United flight attendant. And I never really felt that unsafe in any of those places, but I was, aware that
Mm-hmm.
you had to be alert.
Mm-hmm.
But I never had any problems. Now, did you go on any really good adventures there, like into the rainforest or any of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Several different hiking trails that I went on to, and they're extreme. Like they're if you're not in shape, then don't go on those hikes, because I mean, you're walking up significant inclines and declines, and it's hot and it's humid. So I mean, if you got any kind of breathing, it's not recommended to do a hike. I did lots of mountain bike trails. I did ATV trails, and just the views are absolutely amazing. I went to the volcano, and the volcano was pretty awesome. There's two volcanoes there. I went to, I don't even remember what the name of it was, but I went to one of them, and it was super, super nice. And just the views are breathtaking when you're there. Like you almost can't believe that this is real. Like you're just taking pictures and you're looking back on your phone. You're like, I don't even believe this is real. Like it's pretty spectacular. And then obviously, the wildlife, um, if you're going to do like a national park, my advice is to hire a guide at least your first time. We hired a guide, and like, I mean, she would walk and she'd stop and she'd look behind her and she'd set up her little tripod and her camera thing, and you would zoom in on it, and you're like, how did you even know that like a sloth was there? And she found this little bird that was like buried in a nest, and you could just see the eyes blinking. That's all you could see. It was quite spectacular on everything that she was finding. She found a little bat that was like in a leaf and it was wrapped around. So it was pretty awesome on the things that she found and that she, would talk to you about. And if you're just walking, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a nice park, but you wouldn't see all the wildlife that's around you. It's just like, it's that hidden that you won't recognize it unless you know what you're looking for.
Hmm. So generally speaking, you would recommend people considering Costa Rica as maybe an option or a second home or a great place to visit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's super nice. I mean, they have a lot of amenities, whether it's like restaurants, whether it's clothing out stores. It's very similar if you're in the capital of San Jose. I mean, they have a lot of the retail brand names there. They even have a mall called City Mall that's there, that is like, it's like you're in a mall in the US. Like you couldn't tell the difference. So just, I would definitely recommend for someone to live there, someone to vacation home there, to visit there. I think that if you're only there for a week, that it's not long enough. Like really, you would need a minimum 2 weeks. Realistically, like anywhere from 3 weeks to a month would probably be like a better way to visit Costa Rica, just because there's so much to see and so much to experience. And yeah, just traveling, like their highway system isn't like in the US. Like if you can think about, if you're traveling in the mountains, well, all of Costa Rica is essentially in the mountains. They have very few flat parts. So everything is like a 2-lane highway. So, one going one direction, one going the other direction. And it's very difficult to pass. And so you get a lot of transport trucks that go extremely slow and slows down traffic. And it's just part of it. I mean, it's just, from the capital city, San Jose, to, where I was living in Jaco, it's only 80 kilometers, which should really take you less than an hour. And, it would typically take us like an hour and a half to 2 hours to get from one to the other. That was on average what it would take us.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a wonderful place to visit. I mean, I have stayed there quite a few times, like I say, as a flight attendant on layovers, but I didn't get to explore it as much as you did.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of the most beautiful climates in the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
known for that because it's always kind of at a nice upper 70s, low 80s temperature. And
I don't know. Like, I mean, I was there like for a full year almost, right? And so I saw all extremes. And for me, where I was staying, the temperature never got, even at night, it never really got below like 77. So that was the lowest that I ever saw it. and typically throughout the day when the sun was, at the highest between like 10:30 and 3, the temperature typically was, anywhere from like 90 to 100 roughly. And then that's not including the humidity on top of that. So it's
Hmm,
hot. It's
that's
definitely hot.
yeah.
Um, and there's lots of humidity. So at least where I was. Now, that's not all cities in Costa Rica. If you're in some of the higher elevation cities, it is cooler, and you do have to bring like jackets and pants and stuff because you will get cold. But and the what I like the most is the water. So, typically when you get into ocean waters, I mean, it's cold, and you're dipping your foot in and you're like slowly getting in. And no, in Costa Rica, it's like bath water. It's like 80 to 84. And it's just like you walk in, you're like, oh my God, this is so nice. And once you're in the water, I mean, you're cool, but you're not like your body didn't take a while to adjust to it. Right. Like it just kind of, you get into the water, and it's just really, really nice to get into the water.
Can't beat that. That's pretty rejuvenating.
It
Well,
definitely is. And even if you like the waves and stuff and you like surfing, there's good surfing spots there, especially on the West Coast where I was. There's some really good surfing. It's not like huge waves like Daytona waves all the time, because you have to remember that like they don't hardly get any weather. And even if it does rain, it's not like there's even any wind there whatsoever. It's really weird. So when I was there, if you went on to like windy.com, which is like an app that I have, and you're checking the winds, there's like no wind speed whatsoever. So it's just one of those things that they just don't get. Even when it's storming out, like it's raining like hard, it's like coming straight down.
hmm,
So it's completely different on how it is when it's raining out. Like even the rainy season, the one time it rained for like 5 hours straight, thunder, lightning, but there's no wind. It was just the weirdest thing. Like usually when you see stuff like that back in, North America, you get like wind, and you get the wind shear, and you get it like coming down on angles and stuff. In Costa Rica, it's just straight down, and it's like someone's literally above you and just dumping bucket after bucket of water on you. That's what
wow.
it feels like.
Hmm, fascinating. Well,
Uh-huh.
thank you for sharing all this really good information about Costa Rica. And having just been there as recently as you have been, it's up to date information about what someone could expect when they go there.
Yeah, well, you know, how it gets even better, if you don't like the government policies of mandatory V's, um, Costa Rica just got a new president that got rid of that. There is absolutely no mandatory V's whatsoever. So they got rid of that law, and so that's another really good reason to live there. They've removed all the protocols whatsoever. So even some more good reasons to move and live in Costa Rica.
I love it. Freedom is my middle name.
Yes. Yeah. And when you're there, there's like a certain energy that's there. It's just different. Like when you're meditating, or when you're just connecting, or you're out in the wild for a hike or a bike ride or whatever. It's just the feeling that you feel is pretty intense.
Hmm, yeah, it is a special place.
Hmm.
Well, thank you, Adam. This was really interesting and very informative. And we'll be putting it on not only my Inner Power Training YouTube channel, but we'll put it on Lightworker's Secrets to Success.
Perfect.
There'll be two spots for it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
All righty.